On January 31st of 2022, Stygian Software released the long-awaited New Year's resolution update for Underrail, bringing a new UI, questline, unique weapons and armor, bosses, and many mechanical changes. This update signified the end of Underrail's development, with SIG saying that it would be the last major update and that the team would be shifting their focus on developing Infusion, the next game set in an upgraded 3D engine. This was it. The end of a 12-year-long journey, starting out as a one-man hobby project and ending up as an incredible creation, capturing the hearts and minds of those who play it. Going back through the devlogs and seeing the game evolve and expand is truly amazing, and having experienced some of that myself, I am truly grateful to have been along for the ride, even if it was towards the end. The New Year's resolution update was the perfect ending for this journey, a final hoorah to end this odyssey with a bang. Final love letter from Stygian Software to us, the players. The game was elevated to its best state and was poised to stand as the definitive Underrail experience. And all was at peace. With Infusion on the horizon and the brand new content in the game, everyone was more than sated, and we began to look to the future as more info on Infusion came in. During this time, I started making my guide as a way to give back to the game for all the good times it's given me, thinking that this was the final chapter in the Underrail saga. But just as we were saying our farewells, something happened that none of us could expect. On September 29th, over a year and a half later, Stig unveiled the surprise announcement of a new DLC despite the aforementioned shift in development. It seems Stig had one last trick up his sleeves, and we were all in for one hell of a wild ride. Heavy Duty was released on November 1st and primarily brought forth an expansion to the game's arsenal with an additional endgame dungeon meant to serve as one of the game's hardest challenges. The DLC added 3 new weapon types, grenade launchers, light machine guns, and miniguns, with the latter 2 belonging to the new skill, Heavy Guns. Alongside these new weapons, new feats were added to the game to increase your power, as well as new enemy variants equipped with these powerful arms to keep up with you. Aside from the weaponry, Heavy Duty also adds a new questline in Upper Underrail that sends you off to the treacherous Dark Zone of the Northern Upper Underrail Metro line, but I'll get into that later. For now, let's focus back on the weapons. The 3 new weapon types come with plenty of new attachments and enhancements, alongside new unique variants scattered across the rails. I cannot begin to express how fucking cool the additions of these weapons are and how much fun it is to lay waste to these poor unsuspecting zoners. There's also some cool new mechanics introduced in the new area, but I'll get into those when I talk about the new questline. With all that being said, let's take a deeper dive into the new guns. Before we dive into the new weapons, let's take a look at the new weapon skill, Heavy Guns. Heavy Guns dictates the precision and accuracy of light machine guns and miniguns, as well as a skill synergy with the regular gun skill akin to the boost given by versatility. This synergy makes running full heavy guns viable in the early game when you're broke as shit and can't afford the expensive weapon parts needed to make an LMG. There are also new feats for heavy guns alongside additions to old feats to make them compatible with the new weapon types. The new feats are Brute Aim, a high strength feat that gives you +3 to perception for the sake of boosting your heavy gun skill, Bullet Trance, which gives you a 5% damage bonus status effect for everything you kill up to 5 stacks, Gunner's High, which gives you health back per turn, Heavy Metal, another high strength feat that gives you both a slight buff to your resistances and a damage bonus based off your armor penalty, and Mag Dump, which makes your heavy guns fire more bullets. Heavy guns are also affected by the concentrated fire, critical power, full auto, and suppressive fire feats. It's also worth noting that LMGs and miniguns share the same feats and there are currently no weapon-specific feats. On to the new guns. Both LMGs and miniguns only fire in bursts, though the two differ in how they accomplish this task, with LMGs having a static burst fire and miniguns having a ramp-up feature that adds more shots in the burst the more times you fire it. First, let's take a look at the light machine guns. There are 4 light machine gun models, the Ratchet, the Grudge, the Tango, and the Guardian, and all are chambered in the flavors of 9mm and 44 Magnum. They can also be enhanced by ergonomic handles, rifle bipods, barrel compensators, and muzzle brakes, as well as larger magazines and ammo belts. The Ratchet is a belt-fed LMG that sports the highest fire rate amongst the competition, with 4 extra shots added to its burst fire alongside lower AP costs for shooting. This is balanced by its high reload costs and low burst precision. The Grudge is a magazine-fed LMG that shares the same AP costs for shooting, but only adds 2 additional shots to its burst fire. This is made up for by its lower reload costs and slightly higher burst precision compared to the Ratchet. The Tango is a magazine-fed LMG that is very similar to the Grudge, only differentiating with the Tango having higher AP costs for shooting and a slightly tighter burst fire spread. Other than that, it's pretty much the same as the Grudge, 2 extra burst shots, lower reload costs, and higher burst precision. The Guardian is a belt-fed LMG that sports the highest damage range of all the LMGs, as well as 3 extra burst fire shots and a slightly tighter spread, but this is balanced by its higher AP costs for both firing and reloading alongside the same low burst precision as the Ratchet. As for the enhancements, the ergonomic handle adds a +3 to the overall weapon precision alongside the burst spread being reduced by 3 and the move and shoot penalty being reduced by 5. The rifle bipod brings the burst precision to 0 and reduces the spread angle by 3, but adds 5 action points to fire. The barrel compensator adds 15 burst precision. The muzzle brake adds 2 more shots to the burst fire. For the magazine slot, there are 45, 55, 65, and 80 round magazines for the Grudge and Tango, and 50, 65, 80, and 100 round ammo belts for the Ratchet and Guardian. I fucking love LMGs, let me tell you. They are pretty damn powerful, especially in crowds, and they synergize extremely well with the opportunist and suppressive fire feats. The only downsides to using LMGs are the expensive weapon parts and the insane usage of expensive ammo, especially if your burst fires take a lot of extra shots. Seeing my 44 rounds waste away after I killed my target makes my wallet hurt. Believe me when I say that a heavy guns build is not for the poor. Personally, I like to roll out with a 44 caliber Ratchet with an ergonomic handle and muzzle brake to boost my burst fire shots and accuracy, plus being able to have a 100 round ammo belt makes things a lot more convenient. You could buy the blueprint for LMGs at the start of the game from Lucas in the armory at Southgate Station, but keep in mind that heavy gun stuff is really expensive, so you might have to scrounge around a little bit more when starting out. Now let's take a look at the miniguns. There are 4 minigun models, the Barbarian and the Destroyer chambered in 44 Magnum, and the Predator and the Terminator chambered in 12.7mm, you heard me right, sniper rifle rounds, and can be enhanced by ergonomic handles, rifle bipods, and larger ammo belts. Alongside the weapon frames, minigun stats are also determined by the motor you place into it, which can drastically change the way you use it since it controls how the minigun ramps up its burst fire. These motors are the Jump Starter, the Slow Starter, and the Long Game, and each of them has an upgraded Mark II variant that improves their respective traits. The Jump Starter starts with 1 extra shot for your burst and increases by 1.5 rounds per stack, but only up to 4 stacks. The Mark II version starts with 2 shots and increases by 2 rounds per stack, but is still limited to 4 stacks. The Slow Starter starts with 2 less shots for your burst, but increases by 2 rounds per stack for up to 6 stacks. And the Mark II version starts the same and increases by 2.5 rounds, but is still limited by 6 stacks. The Long Game starts with 1 less shot for your burst, but increases by 1.5 rounds per stack for all the way up to 10 stacks. The Mark II version starts out with 2 less, but increases by 1.75 rounds for up to 12 stacks. As you can tell, the usefulness of the motors is dependent on the length of encounter you are facing. If you're just squaring up with a few zoners, then the Long Game isn't going to be able to reach its full potential, but the Jump Starter will be perfect to mow them all down real quick. Conversely, if you're in the position to fire off 12 minigun bursts in a combat scenario and have enough ammo to enact this carnage, then I say use the Long Game and put the pain on these filthy zoners. As for the minigun frames themselves, they don't differ all too much, with the major differences being their damage spreads and AP consumption. For the 44 caliber miniguns, the Destroyer has a higher upper damage range than the Barbarian, and both share the same very high AP firing and reloading costs. For the 12.7mm miniguns, the Terminator has a higher upper damage range and lower strength requirement than the Predator, and both share the same AP costs that are even higher than the 44 calibers. The real difference between the miniguns comes down to their caliber, with 44 being vastly more accessible than 12.7, but inversely 12.7 being vastly more powerful than 44 caliber. The enhancements for miniguns work the same way as they do with LMGs, and you can put 2 ammo belts on a minigun, potentially giving it up to 200 bullets at once. It's worth noting that the larger ammo belts and magazines increase the strength requirements for LMGs and miniguns, making that dream of a 200 round ammo belt a 13 strength reality check. Overall, I think miniguns are fun, but unfortunately inferior to LMGs due to the insanely high AP cost per shot, being either 40 or 45 AP per burst, and the inconsistent damage output. It's not that they're bad, it's just that LMGs are so fucking busted and the cool ramp-up mechanic just can't keep up with potentially two 13-round bursts of armor-piercing 44 caliber rounds in one turn. However, I found that miniguns with a penalty to their burst shots become surprisingly more economical since you're dealing higher damage with fewer bullets, avoiding scenarios where there's one guy left and I have to drop an entire mag on him against my will. Although the LMGs and miniguns make up the new weapon skill, there's still a third weapon type that was added. Let me introduce you to grenade launchers. Grenade launchers are a new addition to the regular gun skill and introduces new ammo and explosive types to the game, along with some new feats tailor-made for the new weapon type. The new feats are Demolition Man, which gives you a damage bonus status effect every time you take AoE heat damage for up to 5 stacks, Practice Parabola, which boosts your grenade launcher precision and miss distance, Shell Shot, which gives anyone caught in your blast a debuff to their offensive and defensive skills, and Tricky Trajectory, which gives you a damage bonus and makes your nades ignore more evasion. There are 4 models of grenade launcher: the Petard and the Tsar, chambered for 25mm grenades, and the Mangonel and the Onager, chambered for 40mm grenades, and they can be enhanced by grenade launcher iron sights, grenade launcher scopes, airburst scopes, rifle bipods, forward grips, and larger magazines and cylinders, as well as the option for a long barrel that lowers the overall damage for more range. The 25mm grenade launchers have lower AP costs, but are subsequently less damaging compared to the 40mm variety. They also have access to utility ammo in the form of concussive and incendiary grenades. The Petard is defined by its higher base damage compared to the other 25mm launcher, but other than that, it's pretty plain. The Tsar sports a higher chance to crit and slightly higher crit damage, but in exchange has a lower overall damage potential compared to the other launcher. The 40mm grenade launchers are incredibly powerful, but are balanced by high AP costs, especially with the larger grenade cylinders. They also have access to 2 new explosive types in the form of cluster and thermobaric grenades. The cluster grenades work as you'd expect, with them exploding into several smaller explosive charges on impact, great for crowds of unarmored enemies. The thermobaric grenades work like improved high explosive grenades, with them being able to deal more heat damage to a target, but this comes at the cost of them ignoring less resistances than high explosive grenades. The Mangonel is defined by its tighter damage spread and higher chance to crit, with its main downside being its lower crit bonus compared to its contemporary. The Onager sports both a wider and higher damage range, and a higher crit bonus at the cost of having slightly lower crit chance. As for the enhancements, iron sights give a +5 to precision, grenade launcher scopes give a +6 to precision and +3 to crit chance, but +10 to close quarters penalty. Airburst scopes give you a +5 to precision and a +10 to close quarters penalty, as well as the ability to explode grenades on water. Rifle bipods give a +10 to precision, but a +5 to the move and shoot penalty, and a 2 AP increase to firing. And forward grips give a +3 to precision and reduces the move and shoot penalty by 5. The larger grenade magazines for the 25mm launchers don't impose any more AP costs for reloading, but the 40mm launchers do. The 25mm launchers have access to 6, 8, 10, and 12 round box magazines, and the 40mm launchers have access to 4, 6, and 8 chamber cylinders. Personally, I like to use 40mm launchers more, but that's because I'm a fiend for damage numbers, and oh boy can you crank out some high damage numbers with 40mm nades. That being said, there is still a lot of utility to be had from the 25mm launchers, and I think that the idea of chain stunning people over and over again is really funny. Either way, grenade launchers are an incredibly fun and busted addition to the weapon roster, and the addition of the airburst scope lets you fucking annihilate any jet ski you come across. On top of all of these incredible weapons and crafting combinations, Stig also blessed us with a variety of unique variations of all the weapon types spread out across the game for you to find and collect, so keep an eye out the next time you start a new run. With the addition of all these new weapons, there are also new faction NPC variations that use the new weaponry, as well as some new combat encounters revolved around the new weapons. Unless you yourself are using heavy guns, these new enemies are going to put up one hell of a fight against you if you're not prepared. But weapons aren't the only thing Stig added in this DLC. Heavy Duty adds a new questline in Upper Underrail, located in a new area north of Fort Apogee that sees you team up with one Buck Nimble and his crew in their search for a forgotten route to North Underrail through the dangerous Dark Territory, an area so long abandoned and forgotten that no train has passed through in a very, very long time. This journey takes you to a new endgame dungeon, the Compound, a vast mysterious complex that has been lost to time in the Dark Territory, solely inhabited by the new enemy faction, the Exo Soldiers. These new enemies are extremely fearsome, being very high-leveled, extraordinarily well-armed, and always patrolling in very large groups. Not to mention the fact that they are all equipped with high-level energy shields and even have access to support bots that can easily thwart whatever plan of attack you have. The Exo Soldiers come in 4 different variations, those being the Combat Exo Soldier, the Technomedic, the Intercessor, and the Psychofract. They are also joined by the TSB-01 Cryo Sentinel and the TSB-02 Designator support bots. The Combat Exo Soldiers are the most common of the variety and can be equipped with energy weapons, combat shotguns, assault rifles, sniper rifles, grenade launchers, LMGs, and miniguns. This variety makes any combat encounter with them incredibly difficult to survive because of how versatile a single group could be. Technomedics are less common than the Combat Exos, but they make up for their sparsity by being able to heal and buff any nearby Exo, as well as being able to give them adrenaline shots, which can very much swing the state of a fight back to the side of the Exos. They also come equipped with SMGs. Intercessors are the rarest of the common Exo variety, with only 1 or 2 ever being present in a group patrol. This is made up for by their ability to use thought control psionics against you, but more importantly, their mere presence in a group buffs every Exo around them. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that every single Exo Soldier has a latent buff that increases their offensive skills and resistances and lowers their AP costs. With an Intercessor present, all surrounding Exos receive more stacks of this buff, and the more Intercessors, the more stacks, making them extremely dangerous power multipliers. The last Exo variant is also subsequently the rarest of the bunch to encounter, only spawning when a majority of the normal patrols around the compound have been taken out. Those being the Psychofracs, elite psionic Exo Soldiers that patrol in full packs exclusively of other Psychofracs. The Psychofracs exclusively use metathermics and psychokinesis in combat and have access to very high-level psionics, like Plasma Beam, and are nothing to sneeze at. However, they are balanced by the fact that they don't have the buff that every other Exo has and can only patrol with other Psychofracs, making them far easier to predict and manipulate compared to a patrol of random Exos. Alongside the Exo Soldiers are the 2 types of support bots that can be deployed with a patrol, and both make any combat encounter significantly more annoying and harder to survive. The Cryo Sentinel support bot has a unique ability called Laser Cooling Anti-Projectile System, making it essentially a walking trophy system that can destroy all grenades before they're even set off, and this includes grenade launcher grenades too. Cryo Sentinels aren't just defensive support bots, they also come equipped with lasers that deal both energy and cold damage that has the chance to freeze you in place if you're particularly unlucky. The Designator support bot has a unique ability called Laser Designator that raises your chance to be crit by 50%. On top of that, they are also given True Sight, which makes stealthing around them literally impossible. Designators have no means to deal damage, but the fact that they can instantaneously target you through stealth and force you into a combat situation you are not prepared for more than makes up for its inability to do damage. Support bots sometimes spawn with the patrol, and there are usually no more than 2 bots in any large group you come across. But believe me when I say that they can fuck up your entire strategy, especially if it relies on you initiating combat through stealth. All of these enemies, barring the Psychofracs, are pulled together and chosen at random for each of the patrols you come across in the compound, generally composed of mostly combat Exos with the occasional bot, medic, or intercessor thrown into the mix, so traversing the compound requires a lot of quick thinking to survive a run-in with a patrol. On top of everything that I've talked about so far, the patrols themselves are numerous, frequently moving around, can set up barricades to block you off, and respawn! If you're particularly unlucky, you can run into 2 large patrols at the same time while they're crossing paths, or even have a new patrol show up the moment you've defeated a different one. Even the combat arenas themselves are against you in the compound, with you having to fight in huge open areas with minimal cover, not to mention that the patrols are usually set up in advantageous positions that put you on the back foot when trying to take them down. Believe me when I say the compound is the hardest area in the game and has one of the hardest fights in the entire game. But thankfully, you won't be going into this nightmare alone. We've got company this time around. The Gunslinger is a bodyguard hired by your boss as an extra gun for the trek into the Dark Territory, and when you reach the compound, you are given the chance to team up with him and push forward together. For the first time ever, the game has given us a real companion, and he's not just your average zoner. The man is packing some serious heat. The gunslinger carries around a unique, super high-tech energy pistol called the Stunner, and on top of that, you can give him better equipment and even food and medicine to make him even stronger. Having him as a companion works much in the same way as the original Fallout games with their companions, but in heavy duty, it's massively improved and the AI is far better and way more customizable. You can directly customize various aspects of his fighting style to better suit the way you want to tackle the compound, ranging from when you want him to be stealthy and avoid engaging enemies, all the way down to giving him plasma grenades and telling him to take adrenaline shots. I've had many a fight saved by an insane gunslinger play that totally swung the fight back in our favor. It's crazy how much of a difference an extra man in combat makes when you're facing up against the wrath of the compound. The Gunslinger is one of my favorite additions to the game, being the first real companion, and a very good one at that. It gives me hope for the future of the series, and I really hope they implement more companions as good as Riverboat Ron to Infusion, because that'd be cool. With an incredible ally at your side, and some heavy weaponry at your disposal, you'll be ready to take on the compound and uncover its mysteries, artifacts, and revelations. Heavy Duty is an incredible DLC from the boys over at Stygian Software. For being a relatively small package, it brings so much more depth to what the game has to offer. They really tried their hardest to outdo everything in the game that came before it, with some of the game's biggest areas, hardest and largest fights, craziest overpowered guns, and the most dynamic NPCs. I think it accomplished all of these things with flying colors. The guns feel great and are extremely customizable, the new areas are incredible in size and scope, the fights are super challenging, the new lore is very fascinating, the music is incredible, and the new companion is amazing. With the new weapons and feats added to the game, the potential for builds is through the roof. I was able to tackle the compound with a weird-ass heavy guns dodge evasion build, and I had a hell of a time. The amount of polish put into Heavy Duty is incredible, especially considering the fact that Stig himself said that they were done working on the game beforehand. This DLC is a sign of great things to come from Stygian Software. Everything they release is better and more polished than the last. And if a simple weapon pack and side dungeon could be as incredible and memorable as it is, then I can't wait for what's in store for Infusion. But for now, we must go back to waiting. And who knows, Stig might be gracious enough to bless us with another content drop. Smile. Regardless, Underrail is in an incredible state, and the potential that the game has to offer has still yet to be realized. So go out there, gear yourself up, and take on this incredible DLC. Happy hunting, and see you next time.